your interview style, as we just talked about, is very unique. I kind of wanted to talk about what people kind of known you like the most for, which is your Kobe Bryant segments.
Yeah.
And I know he passed away 3 years ago now. I think it was 4
Yeah,
years ago.
January 26 or January 27 of 2021. No, 2020.
I think it was 2020. It was like
2020.
right before the lockdown.
That's right,
happened.
yeah.
What did he mean to you?
Wow. Kobe was the biggest, he was the most influential athlete that I had interviewed, or the most impactful athlete that I interviewed, because of his fame and of his credentials and of his status in the culture, and what he allowed me to do, which is show him as a human being. That meant the most to my career. And certainly when I was, like, I started doing Cabbie on the Street in 01, and then I started interviewing Kobe in 05, late 05, like going into 06. So from 06 to like 2010, that was the bulk of what people saw my interactions with Kobe. And then I interviewed one other time in 16. But from like 12, or like 11 to 15, he had like a shoulder, he had Achilles, he had a shoulder. So he missed like significant parts of seasons. So when players are injured, they're not available to media. So like full seasons were just write-offs. So I didn't really interview him. It took years to go like back to interview him. One time we flew to LA just to pitch him ideas. And he's like, no, these ideas are shit. So
But he allowed you guys to come over or
go to the practice field. Like,
right, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't like I did have dinner with him once, but
he
we
paid?
weren't. No, I don't. No, he didn't. No, he did not pay.
Like the Lakers paid for it?
No, it was. We were at an event. I was hosting a video game thing with him and Carmelo, and we ate after the event, and so it was just paid for by whoever staged the event.
Okay.
But yeah, Kobe, and that was, when people remember my interviews, they remember that time. It's, Kobe giving me an address, and I go to a Compton, and it's a church in Compton, or me giving him pajamas, or I cut a key for his house. I used to give him gifts. I brought him a snow globe once. Right. Another time we were in a limousine together driving around LA, and one of the more, maybe, I don't know if it's maybe it is the best interview, was when we flew in a helicopter together, and I'm the only person he let like record us in a helicopter, like the only person in the media. I mean, maybe in his final seat, Kobe was like shooting a documentary. Like he had a crew with him his final year with LA. So maybe there's footage of Kobe just like going to practice in a cop, or going to games, lands on the building downtown, and then goes to the Staples Center, drops 30, playing with, no-namers. Yeah. Those last two seasons were super rough because it was just straight up rebuilds.
Right.
And so maybe there's footage that exists somewhere on a hard drive, but in 2010, we were the first ones. My producer Dave Cricks and I were in a helicopter with Kobe, and that day we went to practice. So it was a pilot, Kobe, myself, and my man D, in a small helicopter, not much bigger than this couch that we're sitting on, which is like a 3-seater, and that's probably the most impactful one that I did.
That's actually quite remarkable.
I know, because of the way that he left us, bro. It hit me hard. The day that I found out, I was like, kept refreshing TMZ. I was like, this can't be, and then just like flood of calls, texts. I'm texting people. I text this one person on the Lakers. She's on the flight. They found out on the flight from Philadelphia going back to LA, because they played in Philadelphia the night before. And then just like TMZ, like if it's on TMZ, it's it's legit.
Yeah.
They don't really miss too often.
Yeah, because Kobe in interviews, he's a very like serious, strapping type of guy, but you were able to kind of get through to him, like even like sarcastically. I mean, he would try his best to kind of like not show it, but I could tell he really enjoyed talking to you, just like hanging out with you. So my question is, when did you feel like you were kind of getting into the mind of Kobe Bryant?
The But getting into his mind,
Because you've interviewed like Kevin Garnett. I've seen you do little sideline
Yeah,
stuff. But
thanks,
Kobe
thanks.
Bryant thing took a little like. So I'm trying to ask like, where did you feel like, okay, I think he's gonna really enjoy seeing me now.
Oh, okay. Probably after I think the second interview in LA. So the first one was 06, and the next one was in 07, and that's when I brought him pajamas. So he decided to let his guard down after the first time we met in LA in 06. Because I interviewed him in Toronto before. So it was Toronto a few times, then at the All-Star game in Houston in February of 06, and then I went to LA in December of 06 to sit down with him. So actually, I think maybe by then he decided to let his guard down because he was playful.
Right.
But then like the following year when I'm bringing pajamas and stuff, and I asked him for like his email address, he's like, I don't do email. I'm like,
Right.
you don't have
Yeah,
you don't
I
have
remember that, yeah.
you don't have an email? You don't even have like a Hotmail account, bro? So yeah, and yeah, I don't think of Kobe every day, but when I do think of Bean, it's just I either miss him deeply or I'm just like so grateful that he allowed us to see him more as a regular human being.
Right.
And he just chose, and I never got to ask him like, why'd you choose me
Right.
to be the one that you're like, I'm gonna have some fun in this for 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna go back to being a tyrant in either my workouts or the actual game. So
Right.
I don't know what the answer is to that question, unfortunately.
Do you remember the 2 fake addresses he gave you? And do you remember the 2 fake phone numbers he gave you?
Oh my! Well, the iconic phone number, I say iconic loosely because it's not iconic. It's only iconic to me. It was like 1-800 never ever call me ever, and then there was like a longer version, never ever ever call me ever, and then one address was 8 Out of Your Mind Avenue. That's the first address he gave me,
Okay.
and then the next time I saw him, I was like, hey Kobe, I went to 8 Out of Your Mind address because at this time he wore number 8. I'm like, you weren't there. It was like some old German man.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, I gotta update that. And then it was 1251 Compton Boulevard. And we went to, when we were driving to the address, Compton Boulevard, there's an east and a west.
Yeah.
So we're like, all right, we'll try Compton West. And then it ended up being a church. And that was, I think Kobe just made up that address. He like, meet me here. And then it ended up being a church.
I'm actually impressed that you remember like the fake phrases.
Well, those things meant a lot to me, man.